Many years ago I had an abortion. It took me a long time to come to terms with what had happened to my baby, to find healing and peace. I started post-abortion support for everyone to help men and women who've been affected by abortion come to a place of healing, to help break the silence surrounding abortion that has locked so many people in fear, grief and shame. Over the years, I've spoken with many post-abortive men and women who've had abortions for various reasons. I want to share with you how you can start a helpful conversation. The initial goal is to reassure that you care, to listen, and to help them start their journey of recovery. We're going to look at the following: how to change the conversation, post-abortion stress syndrome, the process of recovery, giving space for grief, helpful and unhelpful comments, talking with friends, hitting a wall, sharing hope. Often we can have an in-depth conversation about abortion, making the case for life, providing all the evidence that the unborn child is human and that abortion kills them. But for some reason, all our logical arguments make no difference. It's often the case that someone who has been affected by abortion is unable to receive the truth of our argument. Their baby is dead. They can't change that. It's all too late, and you're just making them feel worse. It feels to them that you don't care about them, the living, and the suffering they're going through. This is often their perception. We need to put our message aside and to start to listen to theirs. We can ask, I wonder if you or someone close to you has had an abortion? We can comment, it can be so hard to recover from abortion. It's never an easy choice. The trauma and stress caused by abortion can be masked by denial and aggression. It is possible to break through this protective barrier with kindness. The deep-rooted pain caused by abortion may be hidden, not acknowledged, as being caused by abortion. The person we're speaking to might not associate their reluctance to engage in logical discussion with the deep-rooted pain caused by an abortion. We must be careful with our words. A clumsy approach, an accusation, may result in defensiveness, aggression, anger. So here's your top tip. Ask the question and be kind. Abortion is a traumatic experience. You'll probably see the symptoms of post-traumatic stress syndrome with those who are post-abortive, just as with anyone else who's been through a trauma. Some symptoms are more likely to be noticed than others. So there's anxiety, night terrors, self-harming, alcohol or substance abuse, low self-esteem, anniversary grief, depressions, suicidal thoughts, difficulty maintaining relationships. The list goes on. The Royal College of Psychiatrists performed a study on a large sample of post-abortive women on the effects of abortion on mental health, published in the British Journal of Psychiatrists, entitled Abortion and Mental Health. They concluded that women who had undergone an abortion experienced an 81% increased risk of mental health problems. Suzanne Babel is a licensed marriage and family therapist who has a PhD in psychology. She's also a psychotherapist with an emphasis on trauma and depression. In an article entitled Post-Abortion Stress Syndrome, PASE, Does It Exist?, she writes, no matter your philosophical, religious or political views on abortion, the fact of the matter is the actual experience can affect women not only on a personal level, but potentially have psychological repercussions. A post-abortive person who confides in you will have been through times of real difficulty. They may still be going through them. Be gentle with them. Don't expect to sort out their problems. It can be a slow journey, and our role is to listen, support, and love the person, even if you're never going to see them again. So the top tip is to be aware of the symptoms of post-abortion stress syndrome. Be gentle with those who confide in you. They're on a journey. And remember, your attention and care is probably the best gift they can receive at this time, even though they may not respond as you would wish. So now we come to the process of recovery. There's so often an untold story when someone has been through a very painful time. For most people, the things that have happened, the emotions that they have experienced, need to be spoken about in order for them to understand and process them. How can we help those who are beginning their recovery when they share with us that they have lost a baby to abortion? The best advice I can give is stop talking and listen. Until we listen well, allow the other person to share, we are at best going to have an academic discussion. At worst, we can leave a wounded person feeling attacked, and we don't want to close the door on future discussions. A parent whose baby has been aborted will have struggled with the feelings of heartbreak and guilt. They may cover up their pain with assertions like, "It was the best thing I've ever done," or "It never affected me." It isn't our place to convince them that they're wrong about that. We don't know what's going on in their heart. Remember, they are likely saying this to defend themselves from more pain. They need to be loved, not condemned. So here's your top tip. Stop talking and listen. Don't try to convict, convince, or condemn. We cannot see their heart. It's important to give space for grief. This conversation might be very scary for them. When a post-abortive person shares what they have been through, they frequently get flashbacks of the event. You might see this as they become overwhelmed with emotion and appear as though they just can't continue the conversation. Give them time to cry. If you cut the conversation short because you're afraid of them being upset, you're not allowing them to grieve. Reassure them by saying, "It's all right, you're okay," or "Take your time." Don't try to move them along from the moment of pain they're in. Silence can be so helpful. Be in the silence with them. If the weeping continues for more than 5 minutes or so, it would be a good idea to ask, "What are you remembering? Are you okay to share it with me?" So your top tip here is to give them space to cry and grieve. Don't fill the silence or move them on in conversation too quickly. Now we're coming to helpful and unhelpful comments. You might have thought it appropriate to ask, "Why did you have an abortion?" There is one reason we must resist the temptation to ask this: judgment. If the answer to that question was, "I was in the middle of a course at university," or "and I've had this one," "I had a holiday to Australia booked and paid for," it might be difficult not to reveal your opinion or your disapproval. If, on the other hand, the answer was, "Well, the baby had developed a deformed heart and brain," or I'd have died if I'd have continued the pregnancy. Your sympathy might convey that they've done the right thing. But both of these responses are judgments. We don't want the mother to feel she is misunderstood, not cared for, or even that she made the right choice because her baby was better off aborted. We must listen without judgment. Instead, express your concern for the mother's well-being. Asking short but open-ended questions will help give the space she needs to express her true feelings about the abortion. Ask something like, how did you manage? Was it recent? Are you okay? It's not a choice any woman makes lightly. But equally useful are noises, such as, oh, It sounds silly, but this is really helpful. It shows that you're with her. Or unfinished sentences, how very, that must have been. So you have to keep gently giving her space to express herself, even if there are pauses in the conversation. You may be the first person she's told. As she verbalises her experience, she may understand more of what she's been through. It's important to give her time to think, and we have the opportunity to show her that she is love. So here, your top tips are: don't verbalise or express your judgments. Show your compassion. Are you okay? And be gentle. Talking with friends. All of the conversation tips so far apply to people who are strangers to you, as well as to friends and family. And it is hard to know how to talk about abortion when you want to continue an ongoing relationship. As long as we've expressed our love and concern for the mother, we can meet again at family gatherings, at social events, at work tomorrow, without animosity and damage to these relationships. I think that we have to exercise patience and discernment. We want to avoid burning bridges. We need to be brave enough to come back another day and ask, are you okay after our conversation? Or, how are you feeling after we spoke? It's so important that there is someone with whom we can be real. Many women who've had an abortion have no one with whom they can just be real. Your friendship and acceptance is invaluable. So your top tips here is to show your concern for her and follow up. What happens when you're hitting a wall? There are infinite directions a conversation with a post-abortive person can go. Each person's story is unique, painful, and traumatic in ways that sometimes make them difficult to respond to. Sometimes right at the onset of a conversation with a mother who has told you she had an abortion, you will meet a brick wall, a hard defence to protect a broken heart. Here are some ways you can try and bring the conversation back to a helpful place. So in reply to, I had an abortion, you say, I'm sorry, how are you now? It was the best thing I ever did. And you can reply, well, it is a difficult choice sometimes. Many agree it can be very hard to recover from. Now, if this comment is coming from a post-abortive man, you could respond, often the father's feelings can be minimised. Or even, sometimes the relationship between the parents don't survive. Or try to humanise the unborn child. You could say, how old would your baby be now had it lived? Another wall we can hit is one where the mother hasn't connected any of the difficulties in her life with the abortion being the root cause. She might tell you, it hasn't affected me at all. Your response could be, I wonder why that is. Or you could say, I'm so glad you haven't suffered as so many women do after abortion. I wonder what happened in your case. You might hear a man or a woman tell you, I had no choice. You respond, I'm so sorry. What happened? Then use the tips from the session to listen well to the story you're told. When you encounter someone who tells you, it was the worst thing I ever did, I don't know how to live with myself, you respond, I am so sorry, and wait for a moment. If nothing more is said, you could ask, was it a long time ago? Or, how old were you? How are you doing now? If you have a faith, you could offer to pray for them. If they would rather you didn't, you can assure them that you will pray later. We need to share hope. From my own personal experience, and from the 50 years involvement with many other post-abortive women, I believe that there is no real healing and recovery without Jesus. However, many times the cause-effect link is not recognised. I have personally had a conversation with one woman who told me that there had been no problem for her after aborting her baby. She came back to me about half an hour later and said that she'd been thinking. Only a few months after the abortion, she started using heroin. Her life has been chaotic for all the years since then. She had never connected cause and effect. Our culture would deny guilt, still it exists and cripples us. Our counsellors would deny the harm abortion does for the parent, yet the only relief they can offer is short-lived. We are diagnosed with depression when we're suffering from broken hearts. Only Jesus can give forgiveness, healing, and hope. If you have a faith in Jesus, pray for an opportunity to speak of him when you have these conversations. Do not be afraid to share the truth of his love. There is no other real help we can give. Even if it isn't welcomed at the time, pray afterwards for those you've spoken to. So the top tip is to pray. We've covered quite a lot together. As we conclude, let's review our top tips from this session. So ask questions. Be kind. Look out for post-abortion stress symptoms. Be gentle with those who confide in you. Stop talking and listen. Don't condemn. Give space for grief. Don't fill the silence. Don't express judgment. Show your compassion. Follow up with another conversation later on. And pray. There's so much more you can learn about communicating well with post-abortive women. I hope this has given you a glimpse into how you can have a fruitful conversation and express the compassion that you have for those wounded by abortion.